I'm ready. GMO nightmares, seeds of deception. Some even say the term GMO nightmare itself even means God move over. What do all the terms and phrases mean when it comes to GMOs? What is the truth? Are the GMOs the answer to all of our problems, or do they cause many of them? Many do not understand what a GMO is, and some may not even care. Some even panic when they find out their food is GMO-based. So let's take a closer look at these so-called GMOs and try to understand what they are and what the process is, and hopefully shed some light on this controversial topic. Simply paraphrased from Health and Safety Executive, a GMO or genetically modified organism is an organism such as a plant, animal, that has had its genes from other species such as bacteria, viruses, insects, animals, or humans that are artificially forced into the organism's genes in some sort of way. This process is known as gene splicing. And this is not a natural crossbreeding. An amazing thing about gene splicing is that some plants are made weather resistant. This may seem pretty incredible, but it's nothing really new. A great example of this is for droughts. They have made genetically engineered corn that has been modified to withstand periods without rain. Monsanto, one of the largest biotech companies, has designed corn that can withstand low rainfall levels, and as the Midwest is in one of the worst droughts in recorded history, these crops are greatly beneficial. Now, of course, you cannot have crops that can go without water. There are limits. But the crops they have designed are much more. They can withstand much longer time than the average crop can. And there are also varieties of tomato that have been engineered to be to produce more in low climate conditions, such as when you have frost, normal crops would die, but the new crops they've designed, they produce longer. In a world full of famines, this kind of technology is really incredible, considering there are thousands of people that die every day. If we can produce more food, we can feed more people. But there is also a darker side to this incredible technology that can be quite startling. Most nations do consider GMOs safe, but in over 60 countries around the world, there are heavily restrictions and bans against these modified foods. What is their concern exactly? As with any scientific research, there is extensive experiments carried out, and of course there are failed attempts. That is why the research is very important. But it seems as if these techniques that are being used by the biotech companies are being pushed into the market too soon, and they are creating problems that are getting very out of hand. An example of this would be a recent endeavor carried out by the leading biotech companies to create crops that produce their own pesticides. That alone is pretty startling. They do this by creating a substance known as Bt, or Bacillus thuringiensis. Now, this is a bacteria itself. In itself, it's not as harmful, but the insects are getting immune to it. And of course, now they're having to use more pesticides, which is creating crops that are completely 100% toxic. According to the National Library of Medicine, the bacteria that is being used is a pesticide in itself. And I know firsthand how devastating this really is. I was an employee at a grocery store locally between the summer and fall of 2014. And there was a period of time where they actually stopped shipping corn crops to us. And we later found out that the corn crops they were growing were toxic. And they had to quarantine their fields and fields around them so these crops would not contaminate others. As pointed out by the author for Invigorate, there is an unknown genetic effect on humans, and it is once believed by scientists that these modified foods were destroyed in the digestive process and had no lasting effect. However, most recently, during tests with mice, they have discovered that these harmful modified genes can now be found in the mice's blood and brain cells after ingestion. This can be very dangerous for infants and really anyone that eats anything that has been modified in a harmful way. There is an amazing use for genetically modified foods, but it seems as if these biotech companies do not know when to stop. They always put the dollar sign ahead of everything else. And it is as if these companies are trying to play God in ways that it can be beneficial, but then again, it can also be very devastating to us, the surrounding ecosystem, and the environment. It makes you wonder if these genetically modified foods are really that beneficial, and if farms are losing millions of dollars in crops every year due to them being toxic, what exactly are we eating? And what effects will it have on us in the next 20, 30 years and our future generations? Thank you.